Yeah, we've seen a lot of progress over the last 12 to 18 months. And I expect that to continue. We've seen some good work from OpenAP, NBC Unified was a recent announcement, as well as the traditional partners when we're thinking about identity. We've seen a lot of work in the infrastructure space from data and how our partners or just the marketplace as a whole is leveraging data. And I think there's been not only a lot of building, but a focus on the different use cases and the ways in which that data is being applied and really being a lot more both transparent but also protective in the different elements of data sharing, collaboration, and so on and so forth. So really, I think we've seen a big growth in the last 12 to 18 months. Obviously, there's a lot of talk around cookies and that portion of the business, but there's also been a lot of thought put into this by the industry as a whole of how do we get ahead of this? How do we set ourselves up for success? And I think the 12 months prior, it was a lot of planning, a lot of thought, and now we're in the active phase where we're seeing a lot of momentum, a lot more doing than planning, and I think that's exciting for both the industry and brands and agencies and everyone else.
So what are we learning about what state-of-the-art data infrastructure looks like for a modern TV business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're learning that we don't know, and that there's a lot of data and there's a lot of different ways in which different folks want to use it, be it an identity partner, a data partner, an agency, brand. Industries are different, and ultimately, I think what we do know is that it's really important, and everyone wants to be able to use it in the safest but most effective way possible. And that we're learning that it's not the newest phrase of the day, but data is the new oil. It's really important. It needs to be protected, but it can't be forgotten about. It has to be at the forefront of all these conversations. Brands are really leaning into it. Publishers are really leaning into it. Everyone wants to make sure that they're making use of what's available, but again, protecting that. And I think really, that's kind of what we're seeing. It's hard to say what's state of the art data. I think there's been a lot of collection over the years, but it hasn't been utilized in the right ways. So it's not necessarily what's new. It's more about how is that being applied today. And applied could be activation, it could be targeting, it could be segmenting, it could be attribution or measurement, or all of the above. So it's really taking what's been available, but making better use of it in a more seamless and privacy compliant manner.
Well, that raises another interesting question, I think, which is about the right balance between individual company efforts and then pan-industry or shared infrastructure. Do you think the sell side needs to be doing more to build out shared interoperable platforms, processes, infrastructure, workflows, etc., or actually are we good with individual companies kind of going their own way at the moment?
I think it's a great question. It's a little bit chicken and the egg. All of the the balance and the cooperation amongst different company efforts to work together is welcomed and encouraged, and I think we've seen a lot again of progress there by some of those folks I mentioned earlier. But also we know that the sales side could be doing more, and there's a lot of different conversations. I think from our standpoint of at InfoSum, we're happy to help bridge that gap for the companies that want to work together. Fantastic. For the ones that want to work together but aren't quite comfortable of how to manage those efforts, how to protect that data. That's one of the roles that we've been playing. So I think there is kind of a balance, and ultimately, it's going to take some time for the companies themselves to figure out what's the right dynamic for them. And one thing is clear, that it's not a one size fits all. There will be different iterations of it. We expect to see continued growth and more announcements, quite frankly, to come over the next 6 to 18 months. And then at the end of the day, we expect some of these kind of float to the top. And in the interim, I think the effort is welcomed. I think, with any type of new innovation or even refining current things, there's a lot of, different steps and advancements that take place over time. Some seem like they came out of the woodwork. Some are just slow incremental updates that kind of, you forget how much work went into them. But ultimately, to answer the question, what's the right balance? I don't think we know. I think that everyone working together is helpful. And ultimately, we'll see the same coming from sort of the retail side of the business, the brands themselves. So whether it's publishers and whatnot, I think the efforts that we're seeing today are a wonderful launch point, and I would expect those to continue. And then I think over time we'll have more of a approach, a market-wide approach, as we head into the next couple of years.
So I guess a final question then that follows on from that. If you were the chief data officer for a major network and were trying to empower the ad sales team to use data to support their business and their clients, what would be your priorities in the year ahead? What would you be leaning into? What would you be encouraging the team and your tech team to develop to stay ahead of or on the curve?
Yeah. So, I think that's kind of a sweet spot that I find myself in here at InfoSum is working with those major partners and really, looking ahead, what are their priorities? What are we hearing and what are we seeing is how do they make use of their data and also work with brands that have robust data sets or brands that don't have robust data sets and leverage the data that's available today in a quicker, more privacy compliant manner and learn from that, right? It's making sure that your current customers, your prospects, or even extrapolating your list up to reach a new audience is being utilized and that we're making decisions and learning about things based on what we have and where we're going. So I think, in terms of priorities, what are major TV companies looking to do this year? I think it's to kind of put themselves in position to be able to do just that, to be able to work with all these different partners. And again, we say, it's not going to be a one size fits all. There's going to be a lot of learning going on with this. And, as InfoSum, we put ourselves in position to just be interoperable across data partners, identity partners, brands, agencies, as well as, publishers and everything in the middle. And I think that's kind of a similar position that our major TV companies that we're working with are leaning into as well. How do we make ourselves available to everyone out there? Because just because we believe in one thing or a brand pushes one thing or an agency pushes one thing doesn't mean that that's what everyone's going to do. So how do we utilize data but make ourselves interoperable across the marketplace, and then learn and help our customers make better decisions and make ourselves available to do so. So putting themselves in position to make their customers successful, but also making smart business decisions about that, protecting their own data, protecting their assets, doing what they have well, and utilizing the marketplace to help bridge any gaps where they're not quite as strong. So that's kind of my view of what they're leaning into. And as a former agency person, I think the brands and agencies are happy about that. I think there needs to be more help, and the major TV companies are leaning into that.